Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to thisweekingeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and I'm not alone on this snowy weekday morning. I was going to say Monday morning, but it's Monday morning when we're recording this, and it should be Monday by the time this is up. Welcome. And I'm joined by my compatriot in the snow-covered land of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer, and we got maybe 2 or 3 inches on the ground. If you drive like barely an hour north, it's like 6 feet.
Yeah, like I've got friends of mine who live in the Muskoka region. I should maybe give them a call today. It's bad.
I have second cousins in Sault Ste. Marie, and they got like 6.5 feet of snow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I've got
now, now that's like a 6 hour drive north, right? So we're talking real North Canada.
Oh yeah, like it's kind of nutty because like I do stuff for a local fan club for the Guelph Storm, and on Friday night they had some games that were outright canceled because of the weather. Like they're like, yeah, this game between I think the North Bay Battalion and this other team, it's not happening because the roads are not safe. And I'm thinking, holy shit, that's not something that happens too often in our region, fortunately. But hey, better safe than sorry. And they even canceled the game between Erie and Flint the other day, and that's south of us.
Well,
so that's pretty intense.
Buffalo got like 4 feet of snow.
Oh yeah,
because of the lake effect. And I guess send our warmth and love over to JT in Saskatoon.
Yep, he's gonna get it hard. Ken's gonna get it hard
because JT's got, I think he got a fair bit. It was like 3 or 4 feet there, but also I think they're contending with -30 weather right now.
Oh yeah, so JT's gonna have himself a fun time getting to work this week. So, Godspeed, sir. So anyway, guys, we are back, and this is probably our second to last show of the year, live show. And what we mean by that, that's stuff that happens during the week. That's your news. That's your reviews. So we're gonna have we're probably gonna have a couple of shows this week. We're starting to record some stuff that'll be released during the hiatus. I'm working with Dave, JT, and Ken right now to record a bunch of stuff, which has actually been a lot of fun. I'm actually going back and rewatching a bunch of movies I haven't seen in like years. So it's been really wonderful to go through the old physical media and just revisit some of these movies. And then me and Alex are still continuing to work on our holiday gift guide. We're giving all our company friends till next week to give us stuff, to give us plenty of time to look at. But we've also had plenty of digital support this year, which I guess, if anything, with modern consoles, now we don't have to wait for discs to show up in the mail, considering we're still in a Canada Post strike.
And I gotta email a few companies and be like, hey, no review yet because for 2 weeks stuff's been stuck in the mail. Like I've got stuff where I was informed, hey, we've sent stuff, and it was a day before the postal strike started.
Yep.
So I've got about 3 or 4 boxes of things that are somewhere at the border.
Yep.
And as much as I want to talk about them and cover them, I know what some of them are from manifest items, and there's some that I don't know. So I got to reach out to a few people and be like, hey, if you haven't heard from us, we're not dawdling.
Yeah,
it is a postal strike that is, at least as of this recording, they say so far apart. I swear, the government says they're not going to do anything. If it goes one more week, they're going to have to force arbitration and force delivery of stuff because the postal service can literally go bankrupt. That's how in the hole they are. And this stuff, holding stuff up, it's like, I understand.
What are you doing?
I understand wanting to strike and wanting cost of living updates, blah, blah, blah. If the company doesn't have the money to give you, and they truly don't, like the books are public, then what do you think you're going to get?
Yeah, I've seen...
okay, let's say you get everything you want. What happens in 6 months when you're all laid off because there's no work and there's no money?
I mean, like, it sucks because, like, even some of the courier companies are doing stuff in solidarity. Like, I had a package sent from one of our really good friends. I'm not going to mention who, but I didn't even know the package was sitting down the street from me for 2 weeks when the strike hit. So I had a package worth easily a couple of $100s, if not more. And I had no friggin' clue because the strike hit. I've got stuff from other companies just sitting, again, at the border, sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
And we dealt with this in, was it 2019 we had the strike?
Yep. This is not the first show.
It was either 2018 or 2019 where we had and that was hard enough. But I don't think that happened during the Christmas season, though. I
I
think
think it was close to, but
it
not
was either
quite.
just before or just after we had to deal with it. But and we're not complaining. Obviously, people deserve fair wages, but
Oh yeah.
there is a point where when you're a government worker and you're expecting a 24% increase over a 4-year period, and the company you work for has filed a $400 million loss in the last quarter alone. It's like, and the other thing is, the one final thing to consider is it's a crown corporation. It is, I believe, the only crown corporation that does not receive direct funding from the government.
Hmm.
They are supposed to be a for-profit business. So there may be some major changes that have to come. Do not be surprised, because they apparently the corporation wants them to start delivering on Saturdays. They usually do that the last 2 Saturdays before Christmas, but that's with like double time. They want to make it like where they can hire part-time workers. Like, no, benefits, blah blah. Do not be surprised if they change their model completely and everybody that's full-time benefits loses their benefits, because they're going to force part-timers on everybody, because it's the only way they can survive. And it's going to be bad and long and drawn out and arbitration, blah blah. But I would not be surprised if they have to deliver to rural areas, if they just flat out stop delivering to homes and you have to go to a post office to pick up. And if that happens, that just means they're going to lay off like 50% of the workforce.
Yeah, and it sucks too because I know our local mailman and they're nice
Oh
people.
no,
So
that's me. I know the workers. I know people that have had those jobs. Like it's it's a great thing. It's just, it seems like every 4 years we get a strike now with them, and that's unheard of for federal workers traditionally. So we'll
yeah,
see. End of rant. Just know that there's some things for the gift guide that we may have a
we're
review
trying.
show roundup that in the middle of December that is either cutting it close to Christmas or maybe after Christmas, just based on how the strike is running out of our hands. Unfortunately, anything that was delivered to us via like FedEx, UPS. For the most part, we've received. There's been maybe 1 or 2 packages that have just been delayed, but for the most part, everybody else we're going to have covered over the next couple of weeks.
Hmm. Other than that, though, we typically kind of talk about what we've been doing in our lives. I've been doing some writing for my friend Enrique, also through some of my freelance stuff. So I'm hoping to finish up a story this week. Finished a couple deadlines for some of my freelance work, which has been really nice to get that off my plate, hoping to get more. Started reaching out to other companies to say, hey, you want Mike to write for you? So who knows? Maybe I'll get a chance to write something in the Alien or Transformers universe. I can only hope. Other than that, though, we typically talk about what we've been playing. I've been playing some stuff for Holiday Gift Guide, kind of giving them my first impressions. Do I like this enough that I would want this on Christmas morning? When it comes to actually playing a game, I've really been grinding out Dragon Ball Sparking Zero from Namco Bandai and Spike Chunsoft. That will assuredly be in the holiday gift guide this year. I play ranked in that all the time. So I actually think I'm in the top 200 players who main Raditz, which is kind of cool. If I'm reading the stats right, I would love to be in the top 100 players in the world. That's kind of my goal for the end of the year. I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate because I've been playing with mods. Now I have a shotgun and a lightsaber. Ho ho ho. And I'm discovering things I never thought I'd see, which is kind of incredible. So it's been a lot of fun just messing around with Larian's in-game mod manager, and a salute to you, my friends, who are the mod authors out there. You are the true heroes of the gate that we need, and I appreciate you a lot. So that's what I've been up to. Alex, what about you, buddy?
Well, mostly catching up on some of the stuff that's come in the mail for review. I've got some games I've been working on. I spent the last few days, well, actually last week mostly, it's just basking in the greatness that is not being sick and finally feeling normal. As you know, I had that couple weeks where it was like, oof. Back to normal, decorated, got some Christmas stuff up, got a Christmas tree going. Did most of my Christmas wrapping already ahead of time for things that I'd already had. And then the weather started to turn bad, so it's just been playing some games for review, and that's pretty much been it. I did get a chance to go see Gladiator 2, and yeah, yeah, that's all I really got to say on that matter.
Yeah, I went to go see Wicked in theaters. Not gonna lie, kind of want to go see it again. I was thinking about going to see Moana 2, but I was talking with Ken, and oddly enough, some of the bus drivers are around here, and evidently I found out it was reworked from a Disney Plus series, and you can supposedly really tell, which kind of sucks because like one of the things I've kind of discovered in the last few months, self-care is more important than what you may realize. And I didn't realize how stressed out I was. And it was over just dumb little things. And you may think doing a podcast, for the most part, me and Alex have a lot of fun doing this show. But there are sometimes when it really grinds on us. Alex has to take time off for mental health. I have to take time off. One thing I've been doing to keep the nasties away is I always take myself to the movies like once a week. It's like $10 plus the bus trip, plus, maybe some popcorn or whatever. And I have a good time. And I was going to go see Moana 2 this week. And I was thinking, maybe not. But I kind of want to see one movie. And I know it's terrible. I know it's going to bomb. And I know The Rock, he even went on the record to say he wants this to be like his Oppenheimer. And I'm thinking, all right, there, sit down, jabroni. And he wants to, it's that movie called Red One with J.K. Simmons as the Jack Santa.
That they're not getting a penny from me. That's the movie where The Rock was showing up 8 to 12 hours late, pissing in jugs and handing them to interns.
Yeah, I'm weirdly curious. I mean, see, I love a good box office bomb. Like I've seen Borderlands and The Crow in theaters this year, which I wear as proud badges of Dookie. But I was like, I'm weirdly curious about this sort of thing, and I was just like, but still, I didn't get a chance to go see those things, so maybe not. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But still, just whatever, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing on like a side thing for mental health this week, is just going to the movies. I went to go see Gladiator 2 like you, but I had to leave right towards the ass end of it because I really frankly, I'll be honest, I had to go to the bathroom, and I'm thinking I'm not really enjoying my time here anyway.
It was fairly long and kind of boring.
Yeah, and that's sort of like the shitty thing about it is like it's Ridley Scott, it's Gladiator 2, it should be cool. Problem is Gladiator 2 would have been cool in 2010, not in 2024. It's 20 plus years for a sequel.
25 years.
Yeah, for a character that you kind of maybe remember for a kind of sort of dumb secret bad guy and Mandalorian.
Have a tiny little thing here I want to say.
Yes.
And I had this discussion because my mom went with me because she really liked the original. And we were talking about it, and we're like, for all the little nitpick issues we had with like the main guy not being as charismatic, I mean, it's really hard to stack up. And just how the shots just seem bland and boring. And now the cinematographer for the movie has come out and thrown Ridley under the bus, saying that something has changed in him and he's lazy when it comes to shooting. And that's exactly what I was saying. Beyond all that, there was a problem with the story at the very beginning of the movie. And this is not spoiling any major plot. Just, you know how it starts out, you've got your main character, they're defending that town in northern Africa. Mm-hmm. And his like adopted father / king of the town is that black dude. It's the This Is Madness guy from This Is Sparta.
300. Yeah.
He's the guy that gets kicked into the well. Mm-hmm. And he's with him. They don't do enough to establish him as being a likable character that you should feel bad about dying.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, I care why.
It takes like 2 minutes with him, not even. And then he gives up and lets himself die. And it's like, what? And you're supposed to feel bad. Do you know what would have made the entire movie more emotionally like on point? That should have been Digimon Hansu from the first movie, because he survived.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
He survived and leaves at the end, and it was like he was like sort of like taking all of the speech into account and all this. All they had to do in the flash is have him be the guy there in the town with him. You would already have an emotional connection from 25 years ago with him because he made it through the entire movie and he was like the close, good friend of Maximus. And he can't be that expensive to get as an actor. You could have easily had him for 5 minutes of the movie, right? And then when he dies, and not have him just give up, but have him die like trying to help. It's like, oh man, now I feel terrible and angry, and now I want him to get his revenge. And then all they had to do in a flashback, when there's a flashback in the movie of the main character being taken away, from his mother and being hidden, just have Digimon Hansu be the guy that takes him.
Yeah.
Because he was there. At that moment of when this takes place in the flashback, it's supposed to be what's happening at the end of the first movie. He was there. Have his character. There was almost no connection to the first movie. Other than being told, there was no emotional connection to the first movie. That and the actress that played the mother's terrible.
Oh yeah, she was way better 20 years ago.
She cannot cry. It's like watching local access TV.
Yeah, it was I don't know, and it's just not a great movie. I wasn't entertained. If I had to give a short, succinct review, it's fine. And that's a crime.
Movies are infinitely better with our good old Digimon.
Yeah, fucking A. So yeah, that's gonna do it.
People like, who's your favorite Digimon? My favorite Digimon is Hansu.
So anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for this edition of the intro here, and we got a lot of stuff to cover. Alex has a couple of reviews, and we actually got a review from Ken this week, who's going to be kind of giving a little bit of an insight into what he's going to be working on for the holiday gift guide this week. But we've got news involving BioWare, George A. Romero, God rest his soul, plus weird news I haven't even looked at yet. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
Our friends over at Nintendo have provided a review / holiday gift guide consideration copy of Mario and Luigi Brothership. Now, this is the time of year when a lot of companies will say, hey, are you guys putting together any gift guides or any recommendation lists or your end of year game lists? And they'll tend to offer copies for us to check out of different titles that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover previously due to either scheduling or it just wasn't available, because there's only so many games that we can slot in within a given month of release. And this happens to be one of the Nintendo titles that we didn't get a chance to check out earlier last month when everything was going live for it, as we had a whole bunch of other stuff on the go. And I said, yeah, sure, let's check it out. And I said, yeah, I'll also give sort of a first impressions review going into it, because I won't have time likely before the gift guide to do a complete full playthrough. But I do have enough time over this long weekend in the States to check out and spend a few days with it and give it sort of my initial thoughts going in. And I'll probably end up playing more and more as we get towards the gift guide. And I'll, say this right now, it is something I'm going to probably include in my recommendations on our gift guide, just based on what I've played so far. I can say this: if you're looking for super in-depth analysis of the franchise as a whole, you're not going to get that in this little quickie review, simply because I've only played bits and pieces of the franchise in the past. I played maybe 5 hours of the original Mario and Luigi game. I liked what I played. It just wasn't my thing when the first game came out, mostly because I was into more mature games at the time, and going back to it was kind of difficult. Now we're sort of back in the swing of things. They're re-releasing classic titles, remastered. They're also going and saying, hey, here's new games in the franchise. And in the past, things have been sort of hit or miss. We know that Alpha Dream was the original developer of the franchise, and they're gone, and yada, yada, yada. So I am mostly going into this blind, other than knowing a little bit of what the franchise is. And I can say I'm pretty impressed with the style of it. I don't know how it pertains to previous games in the franchise, but it does have sort of a unique look and feel to the way the characters move and animate, which is nice. It's sort of like how Mario Wonder switched things up a little bit. It's like that. This switches up what my expectations would be. I'll say the few negatives that I've experienced so far, and mostly they pertain to performance, and that is frame ratey sort of issues, especially when playing it in docked mode. This is not something new for the Switch, as the last 2 to 3 years especially has been real rough on most titles that are even first-party titles. They're just struggling with the engine. We're dealing with not just 7-year-old hardware, we're dealing with technically 9-year-old hardware, right? I've mentioned it before that the Switch's underlying technology was based on tech that was developed and released commercially 2 years before the Switch even came out. So we're getting close to a decade on for something that is portable and that. So you have to sort of expect it. It's noticeable. Playing it in handheld mode, less noticeable because they do downscale it to a 720p output, which is a little more in line, and especially playing it on my Switch OLED is a lot more appealing. So this is a game that I would say play in OLED or handheld mode, or whatever handheld device you have or handheld mode you have based on whatever Switch you have. That's the way to play it right now. It is something to consider that in the future, with whatever the Switch successor is, they have mentioned officially that it will be backwards compatible with titles. I'm willing to bet this will play much more smoothly and just be a much better overall experience if you're playing it docked on the television on whatever the Switch successor console is. So keep that in mind. Like you can maybe hold off on picking it up, but if you're a big fan, you're going to want to pick it up now. So I would say for now it is a handheld title. And then in the future, with whatever that technology and new tech comes out from Nintendo, then it would probably be something that's more suited to looking and feeling better playing it on a big screen. Because it's honestly pretty rough when I tried to play it in docked mode. Those gripes out of the way, and it's not even like me being picky. It's noticeable now with a lot of Switch titles. The only other gripe I might have or nitpick with it would be that the gear is a little less interesting than what I would have liked for the inventory system, as well as there's some repetition that becomes a little monotonous, but that's to be expected with random encounters. They could have maybe done something to spice it up a little bit, but that's really getting into the nitty gritty. As far as what I've seen so far is there's a charming atmosphere and story. I am probably about, if I had to think, because I was playing it a little off and on, I'm about 6 hours in, maybe a little more than that. But combat seems to be pretty fun overall. It's a little repetitive, as I mentioned, but overall it's pretty fun. They've added a lot of contextual things to combat that makes it, fun and interesting to watch and play. There is a pretty good enemy variety, more than I was expecting. The world design is pretty solid. Not the most outlandish out there, but it's not, that aspect is not repetitive. It seems lush and interesting. The art is, as I mentioned, pretty much unique into itself in that it defies the traditional expectations of what you'd think a Mario title would look like in a good way, if that makes sense. I can assume there's going to be a ton of replayability. I can assume that people would want to go and play this over and over again, which is good. Music is pretty solid. The direction and art design, great. So I think younger players can get into it. I don't think that there's going to be like a big barrier. They've smartly kept the complexity to like something like a 6 or 7 year old could probably get into. If you're younger than that, you probably would want to move elsewhere. It's not like purely an entry-level RPG, but it's not overly difficult. Like it's found that middle ground. So I'm having a good time with it so far. I am recommending it. It'll be in our holiday gift guide. By then I might have a little bit more to say about it, as within a couple of weeks I should have probably beaten it, but it is a pretty busy time right now, and I just wanted to make sure that I had a little bit to talk about here going into our busiest time of year. And if you're looking for a fun RPG to go with for the Nintendo Switch, I think this is going to be a pretty fun one that will surprise a lot of people and get a lot of fans into the entire franchise itself.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This week in Geek,
Welcome back to This Week in Geek, where Mike is hyped up and you'll never know why. Anyway, hi! It is back to the Nerd News Network. I'm Mike the Birdman. He is Alex the producer. It is time to break down some of the news that happened this week on planet Earth, so we think here in the Sol system. And we're going to break down a story that is actually of personal interest to me, because I remember when this was announced in the frigging 90s. And we were all so excited. We were going to get a Resident Evil adaptation by the master of zombies himself, George A. Romero. Well, according to Game Rant, the Resident Evil movie we always wanted but never got is getting the documentary treatment. Nicknamed the father of the zombie film, George A. Romero's Resident Evil adaptation project, which sadly never saw the light of day, is being made into an investigative documentary by Uncorked Entertainment, and its release date is just around the corner. Horror lovers will need no introduction, but for those that might, George A. Romero was the mastermind behind some of the world's most iconic zombie films, including the 1963 Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. It's fair to say that Romero pushed the boundaries and birthed the modern zombie subgenre, inspiring so many filmmakers in his wake, such as 28 Days Later director Danny Boyle, James Gunn's inspiration for his 2006 remake Slither. It's also a fair assumption that Capcom's long-running Resident Evil games probably wouldn't have happened without Romero's incredible influence, who later hired him to deliver a live-action trailer for Resident Evil 2 in late 1997. Not only did Romero have a huge impact on countless films and games, but also starred in a few himself. In 2010, he made an appearance in Call of Duty Black Ops as a powerful boss zombie wielding a movie studio light, and also gave his voice to villain Dr. B. Evil in ACW Games' Zombie Squash. George A. Romero's Resident Evil documentary is directed and co-written by Brandon Salisbury, co-owner of the Knights of the Dead films. The upcoming investigative documentary aims to take fans back to 1998, when Constantine Films set out to bring Resident Evil to the big screen, exploring Romero's attempt to adapt the popular video game series and why, sadly, the movie was never made. The insightful documentary will also showcase archival footage and interviews from people who were involved in the unmade film's process. Romero's script for the films was built on the lore of Capcom's Resident Evil series, and development was already in action by 1998. But according to Capcom's producer at the time, Yoshiki Okamoto, Romero's script, quote, wasn't good and strayed from the 1996 video game, so he was subsequently fired. In a disappointing turn of events, when Romero, whose Living Dead films massively shaped the Resident Evil games, he found himself being taken over by another film director, Paul W.S. Anderson, whose adaptation was chosen instead. Breathing life into the 2002 Resident Evil starring Mila Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez, a teaser for the George A. Romero Resident Evil documentary was shown off last year, where Romero can be heard excitedly talking about his influence on the Resident Evil games, and now he felt flattered to being involved in the adaptation. Keith Leopard, the president of Uncorked Entertainment, who acquired distribution rights to the documentary, added, quote, "This documentary pays homage to Romero's incredible vision and the power of storytelling, and that transcends what could have been." This is an adaptation that, as a very young internet citizen, back before Alex was barely out of elementary school, I remember being incredibly excited for. I remember browsing internet forums. I believe the website I remember checking at the time, and I'm pretty sure it still exists in some archival form, maybe through like the Wayback Machine, but I think it was called Homepage of the Dead, and it used to play this MIDI file of the Dawn of the Dead theme or Night of the Living Dead theme, but it kept up movie updates for Resident Evil, and I remember reading Romero's quote-unquote leaked script. Now, I will admit there was some pretty weird stuff in there, like zombies wearing sunglasses.
By the way, the site is still active, and it looks like 1999, and it's still got...
That's what I love about it. You know what I'm talking about.
Most recent post was January 22nd of this year.
That's awesome. Like, just the fact that it still
actually
exists.
wait. All of the posts for the last several years have just been when actors died from his movies.
Oh my
Whoops.
God. But yeah.
Okay. So in 2017, that website celebrated its 20th anniversary. So 1997.
Like, that's how back old school Mike goes. And this was one of the first internet sites I used to browse constantly. I don't think they ever had forums, but I do remember hanging out there quite a bit.
Forums.
I don't think I have an account on there. I'm almost positive that I don't. But anyway, but yeah, like I remember being super excited for this. I remember downloading the trailer that was only available in Japan for Resident Evil 2, and it showed Leon and Claire in their Resident Evil 2 costumes that looked awesome. The zombies looked great. It was like Biohazard 2.
Back then, it wouldn't have even been QuickTime likely. It probably would have been real media.
Oh, it so fucking was. And all of us were excited for this little postage stamp that showed what Resident Evil looks like. Now, that has been uploaded in HD onto YouTube since, but I remember getting my first Resident Evil game from a friend of mine because I wanted to date his sister, and he didn't like that, so he bribed me with a video game so I wouldn't date his sister.
That is one of the most hilarious stories ever.
Yeah. He's like, Mike, please don't cross the streams. I'm like, what do you mean? She's cute and we like talking. Mike, if I give you Resident Evil, will you promise not to talk to Rachel? Sure, I guess. So I got Resident Evil and I ran that on a Pentium 2. But because I didn't have a true 3D video card, any of the sections that were in 3D, I had to listen to the sound and figure out where I was. So I was literally playing Resident Evil like a Jedi, trying to figure out certain puzzles. But I beat it, motherfucker. I could run through that game like nobody's business. But anyway, I was really excited for this. And then when the Paul W.S. Anderson movie came out in 2002, I remember seeing it with my girlfriend at the time, Ashley, and we're like, cool, this is fine, but who is this Red Queen? Who the fuck is Alice? Where's Jill? Where's Chris? Where's Barry? Where's Wesker?
There's only one, I would say, quote unquote, good Resident Evil movie, and it was the third one that was directed by Russell Mulcahy, the Highlander guy.
Which is weird because that's the one I like the least. It's so funny. Like
it's the only watchable one to me. Try rewatching any of them now.
I have actually this past year. I went back and rewatched a couple of them. I like the first one still, but that's probably nostalgia. Resident Evil Apocalypse has moments. Bad. It's got moments of kind of coolness. Moments. Although sorry, go ahead.
Was it the second last one that had the terrible biomes?
Yes. And those, like anything past the third one, when they start adapting Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, that's when it gets frigging stupid.
I think there's 7 of them, right?
Yeah, 5 or 6 for sure. 6 for sure.
It's either 7, whatever. The second last one where they were traveling from biome to biome, and it was terrible. Yep. And then it ended with like Wesker. There's a preview of the next movie, and it was just the White House being overrun.
Yep.
And then you watch the next movie, the final movie, and they somehow downgraded the budget from the scene from the previous movie, so it looked worse. And it was like, ew. And then I was like, that's it. I'm done. I don't even think I made it through. I didn't see the last one in theaters. I think I watched it either on Netflix or something. And I got about like 30 minutes in, and I was like, I'm just not gonna get this time back, am I? So I just left it. I don't even know how it ended.
Like, I remember I was a pretty huge Resident Evil fan for many years. I recently came back when the Resident Evil 2 remake came out a couple of years ago. Resident Evil 3, it's not a great game, but it's not a bad game either. Resident Evil 4 was fucking fantastic. But I remember seeing most of these in theaters. The last Resident Evil movie I saw in theaters was Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And while it's the closest to the games in some ways, it takes some pretty dramatic liberties.
That's the reboot, right?
Yeah. And there was a guy on YouTube. I wish I had his channel with me because he did a really good analysis on why it's a bad Resident Evil adaptation. Because if you're going to adapt material, either do it right or don't bother at all. And some adaptations can take pieces of the material and make it work. Not always. For example, a really good example of showing when you take something and try to make it your own and it doesn't work, you get Halo, the TV series first season. When you try to course correct, you overcorrect and you get Halo, the television series season 2. You get Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Okay, cool. There's Jill, there's Chris, there's Wesker, there's Leon. Cool. But Leon's an idiot. Jill sucks. Wesker's almost a secret good guy at times. And Chief Brian Irons is no longer a sex fiend who's a necrophiliac. He's just a douchebag. And here's Lisa Trevor from the Resident Evil reboot because Easter eggs, remember, kids, member berries. But when Romero's script came out, I remember looking at it thinking, this is certainly a change, but they had most of the characters were there. I remember Enrico was in it, who is the leader of the Stars Bravo team. Rebecca Chambers was still in it. Chris was fighting Plant 42 still, if I remember correctly, and the Neptune, which is the shark monster. Richard was in it, and I think he was still killed by the giant snake. Basically, all the major story beats were there, including Tyrant. Cool. But what we got instead was Mila Jovovich in a red dress, bullet time kicking dogs in the face in a laser grid. While looking cool, that's not Resident Evil. And them...
the whole franchise, especially after the third film when he returned, I think you're right, there were 6.
Yeah.
It just became, let's cast my wife in something because she needs work. It felt less like they were making them. I mean, they made money, obviously. They all made about 300 million a piece after that, just in like worldwide markets. But like pretty much every project that Paul W.S. Anderson has done since he married Mila Jovovich has been, she needs work because she's not in theaters anymore. And the only reason she's in theaters is because he's making movies. And it's like,
Yeah, and it sucks too because I loved her in The Fifth Element, which is obviously the movie she will be remembered for. The Fifth Element for sure, the first Resident Evil movie, and maybe one other one.
She's unfortunately like she gets cast because of who she's married to every time. Who is she married, or I think she married Luc Besson like right after that or during it. And it's like every time she seems to only get movies based on who she's married to. And that sounds bad. Like I'm not trying to be like judging
a nepotism baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Like she's an okay actress. She's not great, but she's okay. There's nothing special about her, but she gets into these big budget movies because it's always her husband that's directing. And it's like, and like, if I'm looking at it, his next movie, because he did that woeful Monster Hunter movie with her in it that that pissed off China so bad. It pissed off China so bad that it basically destroyed the Chinese market for Hollywood movies.
Well, and it's so weird because like when you do a franchise like that, you have to hit what makes the franchise interesting, and that means it's not just. You don't put lore in Easter eggs. You put the lore on the screen. I'm not saying I need to know exactly why the Umbrella Corporation unearthed the T virus in Africa. I don't need to, or why Dr. Marcus had the fucking leeches in Resident Evil 0. I don't need to see that. That's fine. What I need is the Spencer estate. I need Chris Redfield. I need Jill Valentine. You could maybe cut Barry Burton or Rebecca Chambers, but if you need to have a secondary character, give us Rebecca. And you need to have Wesker as a bad guy trying to steal the Tyrant data for his own bioweapon bullshit. And then as a post-credit scene, maybe he runs into Ada, or you tease Resident Evil 2 with them assaulting the lab and the rats getting into the Raccoon City sewers. That's what you do. In Resident Evil, the first movie that came out back in 2002, their Easter egg was, oh, he's infected, he's mutating, put him into the Nemesis program. Oh shit, Nemesis! And then she goes outside and the city's overrun and you see a Raccoon City Police Department logo on a cop car. Then she zooms out. Cool, I guess.
Then you
but
see
that's
Nemesis
not Resident Evil.
Then you see Nemesis in the second movie and it looks like dollar store brand.
Yeah, because he's all chunky and weird and the makeup's not good. I like the actor because he was in The Crow Salvation, which I will still defend that movie.
But like,
it's not good.
And that wasn't directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, that one, but still produced by like, and you look at, like I was saying with Monster Hunter, how it tanked, and that was his, and he cast Mila. You know what his next movie is? He hasn't made a movie in 5 years.
What?
His next one is called In the Lost Lands, based on a book by George R. R. Martin, or short story.
Okay.
And starring Mila Jovovich. who hasn't worked in 5 years. She only does movies with her fucking husband. She's not qualified to do it. And then Dave Bautista as the secondary character. And it's like, dude, don't slum it with them in this garbage.
I mean, honestly, she's an action actress. If you're going to make that Expendables movie, at least we know she can kick ass and look cool. Let her do that.
But it's like, I feel like what hurt the Resident Evil movies to begin with was her.
I think she's only legitimately good in the first two. She's got some charm to it. When she became Super Alice and she got the Force power, so I'm like, dude, fuck off.
So
actually, quick story, Alex. I remember this was crystal fucking clear. When she used her Force powers and killed zombies in one of them, I remember I was in the theater. I don't think Blair was with me, but I didn't mean for it to come out as loud as it. Hell, you've been to the movies with me.
Yes.
And I remember going, oh, fuck off. And it came out so loud, the theater started laughing. And I was like, whoops. But yeah, it's like Resident Evil movies are not about superpower. Yes, there's Chris Redfield punching a boulder in Resident Evil 5. Shut up. But there are moments that just, no, they're not about survival. Horror means overwhelming odds and you have 6 bullets and there are 12 zombies. You better figure it the fuck out. Not roundhouse kicking off a wall to Marilyn fucking Manson.
The biggest problem with that movie was it came out after Blade and Blade 2.
Yep.
If it had been, obviously she wouldn't have been cast as the lead. The movie was probably very different, and we're going to find out, obviously, with this documentary, what the idea was behind Romero's one. But because at the time that movie would have come out, she was working on The Messenger, so so obviously she couldn't have been cast if that was the original idea. But remember, like, think about it. What came out in '98 when that movie was originally greenlit? Blade. What came out in 2000 or 2001? Blade 2. And then what came out after? Resident Evil. They were copying, they're like, video games.
Hyper stylized.
Video game slash comic book, with vampires or zombies. Well, look, Blade made $1 bazillion.
Yeah.
And that's like, it very, very much had Blade and Blade 2 feeling behind it.
Like, I'll be very curious when this comes out. I'm definitely going to try it. Get an early screener copy. If not, I may purchase this because this is something, again, this is my childhood and I'm very curious to see what could have been. I'm like, I know, and this will be the last thing I'll like kind of talk about it. In the Resident Evil fandom, when the original PlayStation game came out, they were curious to know who are these actors. And I remember for years, people were looking for the girl that played Jill because she was, let's be honest, a very attractive young woman, but she posted herself under a name nobody knew. And it wasn't until somebody spotted her on IMDb in like an egg commercial or something, somebody put 2 and 2 together thinking, holy shit, I think I found her. Like, I want to know the story of like, how did people find Chris? How did people find Barry? I think Barry was teaching like gym in Australia or something. Like, it's weird. There are so many weird stories about the Resident Evil franchise.
Wasn't it that they just cast a whole bunch of like
nobody?
They were like people that just happened to work in Japan that were English,
something like that. Like, it was something really weird, and
because all that stuff was filmed in, like, it was all done in Japan with like foreign expats, right? So
yeah, like again, there's so many interesting stories there. So when this documentary comes out, I really hope we'll get a chance to talk about it here on the show. I'm tremendously looking forward to it. So these next couple stories, Alex has just kind of got them together. And we're just going to talk about these as one whole package, I'm going to presume. So this first story comes courtesy of GameDeveloper.com.
I'll preface this. So we're big BioWare fans here at Twig, right? And basically from the old BioWare, because current BioWare, I think, has, at least right now, nobody that is from the previous games working, because I think the people that had been working on the Veilguard, as well as I think some people they might have procured that were left to work and write on the new Mass Effect, but for the most part, everybody vacated and has left, and there's like 5 studios that were formed by former BioWare people from between the three main BioWare studios, Montreal, Edmonton, and then what was it, Dallas or was it Austin? I can't remember.
Austin, I want to say.
And 2 of which have released games. I'll just mention this, that the one group had some of the writers and programmers from classic BioWare. I think they might have been the Montreal crew. They made Nightingale. That was that game that came out a year ago or so. That's the one that looked like a survival PC game where you're like building your base and surviving, but also you're using like a card-based system to go through like Stargates. Well, that I'll just briefly say, they're talking about scaling down that game, and it might be canceled and shut down because there's not enough interest, which sucks. But like, I kind of figured that was going to happen because survival games on a PC are like a dime a dozen right now, and it looked pretty fantastical in its budget. So there's that, and then there's another company, I forget, but they're making like a action RPG that looks interesting, and that has a few other writer peoples, and that one we haven't heard much about. But then those were like sort of like the secondary people that worked at BioWare, but the primary writers for BioWare's like classic era, like the D&D engine era, and then the Mass Effect and Dragon Age era, those have split off into 3 studios, and we have stories in here that all happen within about a week from each one of these studios.
All right. So this first story, like I said, comes to us from courtesy of GameDeveloper.com. BioWare alum Mac Walters freezes indie studio Worlds Untold amid funding search. Developer Worlds Untold is ceasing operations while it looks to secure more funding for its debut project. On LinkedIn, founder and BioWare alum Mac Walters explained the Vancouver-based studio would, quote, search for a new partner to help bring our vision to life. This was never a decision we made lightly and has been a deeply personal journey, and we're all proud of everything this team has built together. Walter spun up Worlds Untold. Walter spun up Worlds Untold and was spun up. God, this person who wrote this is terrible. Last November with the aim of making narrative-focused AAA titles. Before that, he was the lead writer on Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 and spearheaded development on the remaster of the original before leaving BioWare early last year. The employees of Worlds United are now looking for work, and Walters stated he would be honored to connect studios with some of the best people I've ever worked with. This is a heartbreaking moment for everyone involved, but I'm deeply grateful for the support of our partners, friends, and family, and for the time we've had together. Earlier this week, fellow BioWare veteran Casey Hudson closed down his own studio,
And that's
Humanoid Origin.
And that's in another story that we've got where it has a little more detail on that.
Yeah, so I will skip to that one.
So we'll say, as we go to that, I'll say this. This is sad because this is the person most directly responsible for the storyline that you like the most.
Yeah, Mass Effect 2, yeah.
2 and 3, and was a writer on Mass Effect 1, but wasn't the lead writer. But this is the person that basically wrote and helped design what made Mass Effect 2 like one of the top 10 games probably of all time.
Like, it sucks to see these guys fall, because like now that I can say I'm a writer, still feels weird with those words coming out of my mouth. You recognize really great characterization. You recognize great narrative story points. Did Mass Effect 2 and 3 have some problems? Yeah. But for the most part, it was a great story. You really got to be that surrogate with Commander Shepard. And I would be lying if I didn't say I aspire rather to be that leader like Shepard, to unite a galaxy, to bring your friends together, to help separate differences. In fact, I really say they're a massive motivator in a lot of the advocacy work that I do. And it's guys like Mac Walters who created that image in my mind of that idealized hero who could be anybody. And
Think about it.
Yeah.
As the lead writer, he's the guy that in the second game, remember, and you go into the codex and hover over everything, and you'd have the narrator read to you all the backstories of each planet and each race and everything. Think about how much work this guy put in. But it shows that you can have an amazing writer, but what it really takes to really get a game off the ground if you're not working for a giant studio is it takes somebody who is fantastic at fundraising and project management to lead the studio.
Yeah, like that's... it's frustrating. So this next story comes courtesy of Geeky.com. Mass Effect trilogy director Casey Hudson's Humanoid Origin studio to shut down. Humanoid Origin was the studio was founded back in 2021 by Mass Effect trilogy director Casey Hudson, who we've interviewed on Twig, by the way.
Who
What
again was the director, basically in charge of the
Mass
entire
Effect 2.
direction of Mass Effect 1 through 3 and KOTOR. So the person probably most directly responsible for making the games come together.
Yeah, and I actually spoke with Casey outside of the interview. I spoke with him at PAX 2011 or 12. It was after the launch of Mass Effect 3 and before the extended edition, I want to say, or not too long after. I remember talking with him in Boston, and I remember asking him about some of the plot threads that were left dangling. There's a plot thread very specific, and Alex, you might remember this. There's a point where you go to Pragia with Jack and you find a codex entry, and it's like, hey, Jack, now that I'm out and free, I'm going to leave bodies and leave your names
Yeah.
on them. I'll be
Yeah.
seeing you soon.
Yeah, that was, I remember there's that. And there were a couple of, even after they did the extended edition with the, what was it, the
Control, destroy, and synthesis.
and then they added the fourth, which was the
Shoot the kid in the head.
shoot the kid, get the truly bad ending. Cycle repeats, nothing changes. But then also they added the, what did they call it? It wasn't Vacation.
The Citadel DLC.
Yeah, where you end up, where you go to the casino and everything, and you end up with your own base, like, and you cry your freaking eyes out when you find Morden's recordings for you.
Yeah, like my
and,
God.
and so all that stuff, but also there is the they leave one plot line completely. What is it? You kill your clone, or your clone dies. Sorry.
Mhm.
Doesn't what's her name actually get away?
Yeah, and then you bust her as she tries to steal the Normandy because of
Yeah, but
one of
doesn't
your
she-
guys'
doesn't she-
toothbrushes.
Doesn't
No,
she get away?
she gets arrested, but she still lives.
And it hints that it's not just the elusive man she's working for. It's something else.
yeah, like there's so many cool things that
It was
trilogy
like,
left open.
I think, don't quote me, but I think it was hinted that she was actually working for another shadow organization, maybe within the Earth Alliance. Something or other. There was something else there, and there's a few other loose ends, but like you said, like little strings here and there, and then of course what they ended up adding into Andromeda at the end. We never did see Tally's ship.
Yeah, and that DLC had to be released as a novel like a couple of years later, which is really unfortunate. Like it sounded cool.
And it was like that was your tease. If you did like so much, you got to the end and you really wanted to listen, was that the Quarian Ark ship was on its way, but something was going wrong, and they didn't know what.
Yeah, it was the Quarians, the Drell, and the Hanar. You were like, "Oh shit, what's going on?"
And if this new game or whatever that comes out is going to be taking place in the future, it shows that Tally could be alive. Could, like, even though lifespan is a lot shorter, like we already knew, and that
Liara's alive.
Liara's alive because they live for
1,000 years.
Yeah, but like the only way that anybody else could is if they're in stasis, and that was basically proving that it was Tally survived. Anyway,
Yeah.
So beyond that, it's like, it's sad because this, I think this studio, 2021, we had high hopes. Another multi-platform AAA title is what we were hoping. Character-driven narrative, and it's like, God damn it, there's two of them from the writers and the producers. It's like, the problem is you split up the team. That's what I wanted to get at here, is like, you have all these super talented people that could on their own probably make a really good AA game, but the magic was having all these people together.
Yeah. So I would wonder, why don't they all get together? Which means I would wonder, pure speculation, is something wrong? But who knows? When you get a bunch of creative people in the room, it's not always going to be like your writer's room for your favorite television show and everybody more or less gets along, but you need someone who's the showrunner, who's going to run the show. You need your Mac Walters, you need your Casey Hudsons, but you have
your people running between basically what were three studios. the three studios, right? You had the original Edmonton crew, and then you had they renamed the studio in Texas. Was it Cryptic or somebody that they were called before, or Mythic? Maybe I think it was Mythic.
Mhm.
And so like they weren't really part of BioWare, but they were acquired, so they have their own crew. And then Montreal, I think, is now become Motive,
That
or
sounds right to me, but you're the expert with all
a
this
part
stuff.
of or a part of Motive, something
Hmm.
like that. So and some of the people there were people from Edmonton that moved over. So you have geographically diverse people, and obviously now you can do things remotely a lot easier than you could 10, 15 years ago. But I almost want to feel like some of these people just didn't want to move, so they stayed where they were. But yeah, so that's sad that that's shutting down. But the reason I got that was leading into the final story, because I've been talking about Exodus, off and on, offline, sometimes on here, how that seems to be the game by the studio spun up by Hasbro under the direction of three of the senior people from BioWare, which seems to be the magic number, that they've got three of the senior people instead of just like one person starting a studio, or two people. And they're the ones making that game that was announced. I think it was 2 years ago. It was probably announced now, a year ago, 2 years ago. And that was the one with, they're making the time dilation game in the style of Mass Effect, third person, over the shoulder. And it's like, to me, it looks like Mass Effect. And there, I was like, oh, is there any news on that? And then I found this story, and then I found the other stories, and I went, oh, so maybe, before you even read this final story, my hope is maybe they'll pick up the people from these two studios.
I would hope so. So this last story, as Alex just mentioned, this comes courtesy of Polygon.com. Exodus Wizards' big AAA video game gamble is getting a TTRPG, but there's no telling how it will play. Archetype Entertainment, a subsidiary of Dungeons and Dragons publisher Wizards of the Coast, announced a tabletop role-playing game for its original AAA sci-fi RPG Exodus on Wednesday, with Hasbro CEO Chris Cox releasing a statement to Bloomberg about putting out one or two games per year over the next 5 years. Exodus' moment in the sun is quickly approaching. Helmed by a team of ex-BioWare developers, the studio behind games like the original Baldur's Gate, Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, and the Mass Effect trilogy, Exodus was first announced with a flashy cinematic trailer introduced by Matthew McConaughey at the Game Awards in 2023. The trailer promised a new spin on the sci-fi RPG genre that focused on the cost of time dilation and cosmic travel, building on the decade-long interest in Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, which I still haven't seen. Since then, eagerly awaiting fans have relatively little information about the game itself, with articles about the Transmedia's properties world building and the team behind it filling gaps on the Exodus official website, and an in-universe novel by Peter F. Hamilton published earlier this year. AAA games take a long time to develop, so this isn't particularly unusual, but Wednesday it announced the Exodus TTRPG Traveler's Handbook leaves much unclear what the tabletop game is, for example. The tabletop game's release frames as a, quote, special limited time offer for anyone joining Archetype's founder emails list. Those who join by December 10th only receive a chance to purchase an early edition of the rulebook. The only concrete details about the Exodus TTRPG is designed by Exodus developers James Olin, best known for his work designing in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Neverwinter Nights, and Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. Aside from a cover image and a few general bullet points about the game, like exploring the Exodus universe, becoming the Traveler, and confronting time dilation, there's no real explanation about what the game is going to look like or how it will play. Creating a tie-in tabletop RPG has been common practice with large IP games attempting to drum up hype for their crowdfunding or pre-order campaigns, such as the Neopets RPG. Holy fuck, I had a girlfriend who played that, which raised hundreds of thousands of dollars before putting any mechanics on their Kickstarter page. Whether this AAA gamble will pay off is yet to be seen, but Wizards of the Coast, first non-Dungeons and Dragons tabletop RPG since Gamma World, right now has the universe of the Exodus TTRPG mostly void. Exodus will release on PlayStation 5, Windows PC, and Xbox Series X. It has no set release date as of this writing.
I believe that the talk is there's going to be some sort of big reveal at the Game Awards, because they've been steadily putting out more and more video content explaining the lore, and they said they have stuff to share in December. So,
like, my concern is obviously working in the tabletop RPG industry. Like I freelance for Modifius. I've submitted other contracts for or submitted writing samples for other companies. I have a pretty good understanding of what mechanics are for certain games. Like if you look at any D20 game, they're primarily a combat game. You look at stuff like Gumshoe and other Cthulhu titles. Those are investigative games. But you also look at some of the games that our friend Justin from Terrible Warriors used to do, and they're very narrative driven. I've done
Or
interviews with people where they talk about games that are narrative, where if you get
like
into
Fate.
combat, yeah, like Fate. Or there's another game, I think it's called Thread or Threadbare, and I talked with the developer this year on another podcast, and they're like, if you get into combat, it's resolved in a second, and if you get in the combat, you're doing something wrong. So I have concerns. I honestly believe something like this, it'll be derivative of D20, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like one of my favorite systems, because I like the dice mechanics, but sometimes some of the weeds can get a little bit difficult, is the Renegade system, which is Essence 20. You do dice shifts. Like, okay, cool. It's a D2. Now it's a D4. Now it's a D6. Now you're rolling a D8, D12. Now you're rolling two D8s. And the numbers just keep going up and up and up and up as you get more powerful and can do cooler shit. That makes sense. Or in Star Trek, all right, it's 2D20, take the highest number, roll under this, do this, that, and the other thing, and it makes sense. With D&D, cool, roll under your stat, or sorry, roll over your stat, or whatever it is. Yeah, it works. With this, I don't know what innovation you want to bring to the table. Is this going to involve minis? How are maps going to work? How's your lore going to work? I think launching a TTRPG before your game comes out is a huge risk. And what I mean by that is, if you don't know the lore, then how is this any different from you just picking up, as you mentioned, Alex, like a Fate book or Gamma World or Savage Worlds and just making up your own shit?
Well, there's that. I think what they have going for them is I've watched some of their diaries that they've done on what they can at least reveal so far, and they've got something that a lot of games don't have nowadays. They've got a lore Bible that's like, multiple, like inches thick of physical paper of just how the game is designed and the lore behind it. They have an advantage of having people who, of the BioWare people, they've got the people that were most familiar with D&D, because it's all the people that worked on Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, as well as Neverwinter Nights and KOTOR. So it kind of makes sense that these were the people that, game directors and writers that were poached by Hasbro, because they're most familiar. So you're right. It's probably going to be something related to the D&D system.
Yeah,
it might not be exactly.
If I had to guess, and this is me doing pure speculation, if it's based upon their previous work, if I had to extrapolate something from that, it'll be a version or a riff on 3.5, which means it'll be D20 stat based, which means you're going to have your base attributes, your strength, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, intelligence, and constitution. So your 6 main stats. Then it's probably going to be a challenge based system. Like, hey, I want you to beat this difficulty number modified by X plus probably a proficiency bonus, because that came out of that era, which is Dungeons and Dragons 3.0, which I know Baldur's Gate and Knights of the Old Republic were built upon. And those are really good systems. They're exploitable like any RPG system. If you know how to if you can use math foo, you can do some amazingly weird shit if your game master allows it. But I don't need another combat game. But at the same time, I don't need another narrative game either. For every amazing like Golden Sky stories or Gumshoe, you get games that sound cool on paper but don't necessarily work or are overly complicated for what you're trying to accomplish.
Like, I think at the very least, this won't be the kind of unmitigated disaster that what was it, the
Dark
Demon
Souls?
Dark Souls launch was, or some of the others where like there will not be gaping logic holes.
Yeah, and like I don't want a game so difficult where it has like a 1200 page rule. Like I don't need another Heroes Unlimited. I don't.
I it probably won't be that. We'll have to see what it's going to be like. Like I think they're going to want whatever. Okay, whatever the book ends up being will be the underlying rule set that I think the actual video game uses for its logic, which will be good. In that, not that I'm saying that's will be good as in like who knows what the game engine is going to be like. What I'm saying is I think it'll be synergistic with that, so that lends itself to maybe the book being closer to completion than you'd think, and maybe
Yeah.
they just can't reveal it because the game hasn't been full. We've seen like we saw like alpha gameplay in like a few seconds of a teaser, and then they've been showing a lot of CG throughout. We haven't seen a full blown gameplay reveal with systems yet, which I would assume, if the way this sounds, we'll be knowing about it either in December or early in the new year. I suspect if we get like some teases now, the game's probably coming out next fall, if I had to guess.
If I had to guess for the TTRPG, if I was them, I would release the rule set at a PAX or a Gen Con because you're going to get the most eyes on it and you're going to get people play testing it on the floor. In fact, they're probably training play testers right now.
Or if not the full book yet, maybe have a
Quick
play
start
test,
rules. Yeah.
quick start rules, and have that. What is it? Magfest? It's in like March.
No, Magfest is in January, and that's mostly focused on music and culture. Now, you could launch it at a PAX East, maybe South by Southwest. PAX Unplugged is happening right now. Oh, it's going to happen like next week.
If there's something in March, would be a good place to do a play test.
PAX East would be, because when me and Justin used to go to PAX East, it was usually during March or April. Typically when that happens, you could do it during PAX during the summertime, which is not terrible either.
And you'd want the final rules ready for Gen Con.
Yeah, Gen Con is always in August, and that would be smart.
If that was also close enough in line to when maybe the game's coming out. Like
exactly.
Or like the actual video game.
Yeah, and there has to be more like you can't just say from the guys at BioWare. No. You want to interest me? Like, for example, like, do you remember, Alex, earlier this year, or maybe it was really late last year, when we talked about the Assassin's Creed game? The TTRPG? Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Jeez, yeah,
exactly. Cool. I give a lot more of a fuck about Assassin's Creed than I do this. You know why? Because the IP has years of history. Selling me on a new RPG system is fucking hard.
Well,
because one, you have to learn a new set of rules, which is great, which is cool. It's a world nobody knows anything about. Yet Assassin's Creed, even if the rules are complicated and garbage, it will still sell a certain degree based upon IP, because you and I had this conversation before we got on air talking about the rumored Elon Musk takeover of D&D. It's not going to happen, by the way, but it boils down to D&D has built-in name and world recognition. There's been books, novels, video games, toys, whatever. Exodus has names that unless you're a dork like us, you don't care.
It's got Matthew McConaughey attached, and he's doing all the narration for all their trailers. And he's
unless he's going to show up to my house and narrate the game, I don't care.
Yeah. He might for a certain amount of money. No, hey, but also December 10th, they're having an episode of Secret Level. That's okay. Where I think
that might work.
I think that's where we're getting our first introduction to the world and lore, and then I wouldn't be surprised if 2 days later we see something at the Game Awards.
That would probably make sense. Now, before we leave off this story, if Matthew McConaughey is willing to come to my house and end every game session with, all right, I'll see you next week right here on Exodus, I would be fine with that shit. That would be awesome.
Have that. And then I was just quickly looking at because we know, like, for geeks like us, we know Casey Hudson, we probably know Mac Walters, but like the three key BioWare former employees that are now working on this game. One is Chad Robertson. You might have heard of the name. Chad's was the lead technical director, so basically in charge of all the technology tool chain, the programmers, and the net code and all that sort of stuff for Old Republic, as well as Dragon Age Inquisition, and Andromeda and Anthem. So like the technology behind, not any of that. So they have somebody who's like a senior designer of the tech. Drew Karpyshyn is the lead writer for the game, and he was the lead writer of Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, Mass Effect 1, worked on Mass Effect 2, but Mac took over and was like the lead there. Was the lead writer for all of the Old Republic MMO, as well as Anthem. And then James Olin, who's the studio head, was the lead designer and creative director of Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age Origins 1, and the Old Republic, and also worked as a co-director or producer on Jade Empire, Mass Effect 1, Anthem, and the canceled Shadow Realms game. Remember when they were going to be making that?
Yep.
So, again, it seems like Hasbro pulled the best people they could to work within their game engines. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. And I still think, fingers crossed, maybe they can pick up some of these people from those two studios that shut down, because they may have some people that they know and they worked with 20 years ago.
Yeah, like I really want it to be successful. I want to see these games come to life. I'm always excited for new IP to come into the tabletop role-playing space. And hey, if this can be the new Mass Effect, awesome. I don't know. I mean,
Did you
Mass
see
Effect is a game Microsoft sent me blindly back in 2007, and it wasn't until I picked up Mass Effect 2 when I had swine flu that I really became a fan of the franchise. Yeah, I know, right?
You're the only person I've ever met that actually had it.
Oh, it fucking sucked. But yeah, it was like, that's when I became a fan. So who knows? Maybe this will be my next fucking tattoo as I become the Traveler.
If you scroll up in that article from Polygon, take a look at the art from the game.
Oh, yeah.
And tell me that's not like the progression of Andromeda into a new Mass Effect style.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, it looks like basically a riff on it. So
it looks like in Andromeda when you're going to one of the obelisks.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have to wait and see, guys. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Network, only on thisweekingeek.net. So we're going to take a break here on the show, and this is going to be Ken's review of a TMNT game. So we'll be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alice the producer. We'll be back, dudes, right after this.
My sons, can you hear me?
Father, is that you? Where are you? What are we waiting for? Let's go!
Hey guys, Ken Reels here, and welcome to my review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate. This is a game developed and published by Super Evil Mega Corp, which is an independent mobile studio mostly, and is available on all major platforms. And thank you to the folks at Super Evil Mega Corp for sending me a Steam code. And this is a roguelike, originally released exclusively for Apple Arcade in 2023. It is now available on all major platforms here in 2024. And if you have played Hades 1 or 2, you are going to feel right at home playing this. As someone who loves both of those games, and even the fact that Hades 2 is like one of the most played games I own currently on Steam, yeah, this is right at home for me. And you can play as one of the four turtles, offline and online drop-in, drop-out co-op is available. Crossplay is also enabled across all platforms, so it doesn't matter where you buy this, you can play with your buddies regardless of what platform you're playing on. And each turtle has unique buffs that you gain with every room encounter, as you do with a Hades-like kind of roguelike map. You basically battle in little arenas. You have multiple room arenas every single chapter, and you go ahead and move from each location / chapter on your runs, and you encounter classic turtle antagonists. You get Leatherhead, you face off against Karai, and you even face off against Shredder himself. The unique buffs that you gain from each room, you have the option to add other turtles buffs to your pool after certain locations are completed in a run. You can also have multiple currencies that are in this game that you gain each run to both buff yourself, your tools, and your artifacts you equip for your runs. Each run feels like you are making progress either by gaining new dialogue in the Turtles lair after each run or by investing in yourself. Scrap is your run exclusive currency that you can use to gain healing or temporary buffs that will last only a certain amount of encounters. And each location is absolutely interesting and different, and you have different kind of ideas on what's going on. The basic story is simply Shredder and the Foot have kidnapped Master Splinter, and you must battle your way to rescue him. That's the basic bare bones premise. You encounter some really deep cut characters like Nobody using the Angel Bridge IDW Comics iteration. You see Slash like almost instantly, and you have mainstays like April, Casey Jones, Metalhead are all there, and all these characters have VO lines and give the game the charm needed to bring this world to life. Overall, this game will definitely scratch a great roguelike run-based itch for fans of the genre, and while it can be challenging, it's not punishing enough where a young Turtles fan won't have fun doing run after run feeling they didn't make any progress. And with the game being verified for Steam Deck and available on Switch, it's honestly a no-brainer to pick up for any Turtles fan, both young and old.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
And welcome back to thisweekingeek.net. I'm Mike, he's Alex, and you're not. Anyway, it is now time to talk about the weird news that happened around the big blue marble we just happened to call home as we drift through space at hundreds of thousands of miles per hour towards our inevitable demise. Happy holidays, motherfuckers. All right, our first story comes courtesy of website I can't quite pronounce. News Arcana. I don't know. Anyway, it's the story that matters. Let's rock. So, Pizza Hut in China has introduced a controversial, quote, goblin pizza topped with frog. Pizza Hut...
Yes, frog pizza. Goblin frog pizza.
I mean, not gonna lie, kind of curious. So Pizza Hut outlets in China have introduced a unique dish that's creating quite a stir on social media. It's, quote, the Goblin Pizza. A pizza which introduces a deep-fried bullfrog as a topping has gone viral after an image of its advertisement was shared widely online. The pizza features a thick crust with a red sauce base and is topped with a whole bullfrog along with parsley. 2 hard-boiled egg halves and black olives are arranged for, quote, eyes for the frog. The Chinese caption in the viral mentions that the special bullfrog topping is available for a limited time. In China, bullfrogs are considered a delicacy and is commonly eaten in various dishes. However, the introduction of frog as a pizza topping has raised mixed reactions. Some social media users were shocked by the unusual combination, with one commenter saying, quote, I can't decide which is worse, the frog or the grotesque eyeballs above it. Another user added, I do eat frogs, but not with pizza. Prefer traditional style of cooking. The Goblin Pizza was created in collaboration with the popular mobile game Dungeon and Fighter Origins, and Pizza Hut China David Hanks said, a global food trend watcher shared the image on social media, noting the growing trend of frog as a topping in the region. The pizza's bizarre combination of ingredients has sparked both curiosity and discomfort, leading to many questioning whether the culinary experiment is a step too far.
Nobody
curious.
is allowed to complain about us having pineapple on pizza ever again.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to eat bullfrog and more of the unusual pizza toppings in the Asia region,
I'll
sure.
say this, I'd rather try that than have another pizza ever again with anchovies on it.
See, you know what's weird? About 10 years ago, I was living in a smaller town than where I currently live in Guelph, and I was like, you know what? I need to know. So I went to my local Domino's at the time and I ordered a small personal pizza with anchovies. I got mushrooms, pepperoni, anchovies, my double cheese that I normally get, and something else.
The brine is always too strong.
Yeah, with this one pizza, it was actually pretty good. It actually kind of surprised me. Yet, I've had other anchovy pizzas where, yeah, you're right. There's just way too much brine on it and it's way too salty.
Or too many. Like a little goes a long way. So like if you think, hey, I should sprinkle a handful on, no, sprinkle a quarter of a handful on. Just a little. Like if you can just get a little bit. Not like if every pizza slice had like 1/2 piece, that's enough.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, because I hear frog has a similar texture and taste to a fishy chicken.
I had frog's legs once.
Yeah, same here. I've had them with like Liam, and they're okay.
And I was like, I mean, it's better than chicken feet. And I know chicken feet's a big thing in Chinese delicacy culture, but like that's just basically skin and fat. This has like frog's legs again. It's bony. There's not much to it. Like it's something to try once. I don't know if the texture would be right on a pizza.
Well, that and when you deep fry something, again, you have to get the temperatures right or it's not internally cooked. Like I am a connoisseur of chicken wings. And while I prefer baked chicken wings, sometimes when you get the right set of deep fried wings, they're actually really good. When you deep fry a frog, I need to know how long does it have to be in there? Is the batter thin enough or thick enough?
Deep frying it to the right temperature to then put it on a pizza to bake, is it going to be overcooked or burnt? Like it's the same reason why you don't see, like some places might do it, but you don't see like deep fried chicken nuggets on a pizza.
I have, but it's rare because it's all about timing.
Yeah, that's why it's always better. Like you'll see it be like, oh, chicken nuggets, but it'll be grilled nuggets. It'll be breadless nuggets, or it will be designed in such a way that it's like pre-cooked nuggets, so that all they have to do is put them on top and it will crisp up. Yep. Like you won't see, you don't see like raw chicken put on a pizza because of the temperature difference in time and cooking.
Yeah, because you just can't do it. Now, there used to be a place, me and my wife, we used to watch a show called Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and there was a place in Buffalo, which is long since closed, unfortunately, but they had this chicken finger pizza, and they used to put entirely too much goddamn cheese on it, but the chicken nuggies were definitely pre-cooked, and they just, like you said, they put them on top of the pizza to crisp it up. There was one time a nugget felt a little bit uncooked, but it wasn't too bad at all. But again, it's timing. Kitchens are all about timing. I've watched enough Hell's Kitchen where garnish and sides have to be synced up. You have to have your proteins ready to go. You all have to arrive at the window at the same time.
Like, to be honest, when it comes to a pizza, for the most part, unless you're cooking in like a coal-fired oven or a stone oven or wood-fired oven where you can get the temperature at like 600, 700, 800 degrees, for the most part, you don't trust a pizza topping that you can't eat without it going into the oven.
Yeah, because you have to know it.
Pepperoni is already cured and smoked. The chicken that they usually put on, if you order chicken, it's already cooked. The only thing that usually goes on raw is bacon crumble.
Yeah.
And that's because that bacon crumble cooks in like 2 minutes and on a pizza that takes 4 or 5 minutes to cook.
Yeah.
So,
and even if it's a little undercooked, that's okay. Some people like that particular texture.
Yeah. And for the most part, it's so thin. And that's why, like, when you get beef on a pizza, it's usually crumbled on. And if you get chicken, 9 times out of 10, the chicken is like that pre-cooked stuff, the pre-cooked chicken breast that they just chop up and dice up and throw on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be concerned because I know China, they're not getting like from a big manufacturing factory like pre-cooked, pre-cooked things that are already up to safe. They're getting it from some local thing, battering it, putting it and frying it, putting on. It'll be interesting to see how many people have bathroom problems after eating their goblin pizza.
I might be very curious because it's a corporate chain thing. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, if we have any listeners out in China, let us know.
A corporate chain in China is different than a corporate chain that has to follow the FDA in America or the Canada Food and Drug Safety. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. Yeah, we don't know what the standards are because we just don't, right? So, if we have any listeners...
I'll say this. I would eat frog goblin pizza in China over if it was offered in India, because we've seen what street food can be like in certain countries. So
Yeah.
food safety standards are going to be varying from country to country. I would be very hesitant, is all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
So our next story also involves food somehow. This story comes courtesy of news.bitdegree.org. Justin's son eats $6 million banana and the crypto world goes bananas. The founder of Tron, Justin Sun, did something no one expected. He ate a banana that was actually a piece of art he had just bought for $6.24 million. The artwork, called Comedian by Mazuro Chatlin, is a famous for being a banana duct taped to a wall. Sun purchased this quirky piece at...
We talked about this art piece.
Yeah, I remember this.
When it was earlier this year, I think it was.
Mhm.
Or something to that extent, or it was part of art installations that were happening, which was just a banana that was being used in various like places.
Mhm.
and they were trying to auction it for $1 billion. Well, this is the guy that bought it.
Yep. So he had purchased this at Sotheby's Contemporary Art Auction in New York. During a talk with journalists and his new iconic purchase, Sun stood in front of a plain white wall where the banana was taped. In the middle of his speech, he casually peeled the banana off the wall and started eating it. He joked to the crowd after taking a bite, "It's so much better than other bananas. It's really quite good." Before his unexpected act, Sun talked about conceptual art and cryptocurrencies are similar, pointing out how you can both challenge traditional ideas of values and ownership. His stunts seem to resonate with the crypto community, especially with two meme tokens on Solana blockchains inspired by the comedian artwork. One of these tokens, called Banana Tape to Wall, or BTW, jumped 10% in value over the last 24 hours, bringing its market cap to 1.7 million after they shared the news of Sun's banana eating moment. The other token, Comedian, or BAN, saw a 9.5 increase, reaching a market cap of $1.83 million. Sun's stunt with the banana artwork isn't the only headline making moment, rather. Recently, his $30 million investment gave a significant boost to Donald Trump's crypto project. What impact did this funding have? Then it goes to another link. Cryptocurrency is so fucking stupid.
See, this, the absurdity of all of this, is that the most expensive piece of fruit ever? Or is that the most expensive raw food ever in the world? And
I want to say there's one more, actually.
And I want to say, like, how can I project myself with the professor from Futurama saying I no longer want to, I don't want to live on this planet anymore?
Well,
when I see, like, it has nothing to do with the Trump thing. You know, they added that at the end because it's obviously what he's invested in. But like, this is showing me how pointless crypto is more than anything. That somebody can just have that kind of stupid money and just waste it on this as a joke, or even as a point to make about art or whatever, is like, you know, that $6 million to eat that banana could have gone to
people.
You could have fed an entire country with bananas. You know, that were of a country that's starving in the third world.
There was someone who broke the math down, and I don't know how true it is, but take this with a grain of caution or whatever. If Jeff Bezos were to liquidate his assets.
Oh no, it was. I know the story. It was if he paid the corporate taxes they're supposed to be paying instead of putting them into shelters.
Mm-hmm.
200
could house people for like a year and a half or something.
Yeah, 1 year of their back taxes, I think, is $274 million. And if they did that, they could house and feed every homeless person in America for a full year.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, really, guys, you need to hoard that? Like, what the fuck are you, some dragon from D&D? Like, what the fuck? It blows my mind. Just like, you and I are happy when we have an extra $20 in our accounts. These guys,
when you're living on disability and you look and you have more than $100 in your checking account, you are happy.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, we're not starving here. I mean,
no, we also budget ourselves to the point, like, that's an exaggeration, obviously, but nobody gets rich on social assistance, is what we're saying.
Yeah, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, if you see me with some of my toys online, for example, companies give that to me. I trade for it. I bargain for it. How often do I buy new toys? Not that often. I wait for sales, and I use my credit card probably too much, but I'm also not going to spend $6 million on a fucking banana for a quote that's going to appear in a newspaper once and people are going to forget about in a week.
And he's going to write it off as an advertising marketing campaign.
Yeah, like that's insane. And yet here we are in 2024. I bought a banana, dude. I don't wish harm on you. I don't. I wish something greater. Wisdom.
I was hoping it was going to be a trolling thing to completely like tank their market of something, but no, it's probably just a marketing stunt.
It's so stupid. So our last story Alex found, and this kind of ties in if you want to go see the Netflix cinematic oeuvre of Hot Frosty, you can go do that right now. But according to the independent.co.uk, Target gives Santa Claus a weirdly hot makeover in viral ad. Target fans can't get an...
I saw people on Reddit referring to this as Daddy Santa.
I'm not surprised. Target fans can't get enough of the company's new holiday campaign, which has transformed Santa Claus from sweet to sexy. With Christmas fast approaching, on the American retailer sprinkled some cheer with its new series of commercials starring model Brent Bailey as Target employee Chris K, also known as Kris Kringle. Instead of appearing like the typical Santa Claus, Bailey is dressed in a tight quarter-zip red sweater, khaki pants, prompting viewers to fawn over the handsome Santa. Titled Born to be Chris, the first 30-second ad showed the 41-year-old actor with silver hair driving a red Ford Bronco with a sleigh license plate on the back. He was then getting out of the car outside a snow-coated Target with a Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf playing in the background. Meet Chris, our newest Target team member. He loves the holidays as much as the next guy. Actually, way more than the next guy. The Target wrote in the ad's description on YouTube. Actually, way more than anyone we know. Actually, way more than anyone who knows. But hey, that's not important. What is that shiny red Bronco and its perfectly coiffed beard. The holiday commercial, which Bailey posted to Instagram on November 14th, left fans mesmerized not only by his silver fox facial hair, but his overall, quote, attraction. Sexy Target Santa, not your mommy Santa, one viewer commented under the post. The second advertisement, titled "He's Hot, but these Target turkey deals are hotter," saw the return of Bailey's Chris K as he approached a woman in the refrigerated aisle. Upon seeing him, the woman told Bailey he's weirdly hot before reaching for a 79-cent turkey. On YouTube, the 15-second ad has been more than 6 million times. My favorite ad of the 2024 season so far. I can't get enough of it. One fan commented, while another said, "Congrats, Target. Santa got it going on." Target also released a third video as part of its holiday campaign titled Chris from Target, which showed Bailey doing bicep curls with a miniature Christmas tree as he walked around the store. On Instagram, Target shoppers begged for more sexy Santa ads and wished for him to meet Bailey in person. Where are these photos with this Santa? I'd like some. One person asked, where the second viewer wrote, "Whoever's in charge of our marketing campaign deserves a rage. Love it. That's my kind of Santa." Another commenter added, "I believe Santa is in again. Joke someone else." And finally, one skeptical viewer pointed out, Target's version of Santa likely would only appeal to adults, and kids wouldn't be amazed by Bailey's rendition. I guess adults might like Santa, but kids won't. They wrote. It's okay to have fun with stuff like this.
Yes,
I mean,
what's
funny.
What got me, literally, I was like searching for weird stories, and it's and I will say this, it's you're right, it's for adults, and and the article, or at least the link that brought me to it through Reddit, was Daddy Santa got me feeling funny, and I was like, what is this? And it was just an entire thread of women fawning about him and how he makes their lady parts feel.
Oh dear. I mean, I love
and comment after comment after comment of "I'd sit on that lap" and all this stuff. And it's like, and I was like, what are we talking about? And I clicked it and I went, oh my God. And okay, sure, Daddy Santa.
I mean, I love good Christmas ads. I think my favorite one, and there are two of them. In Canada, for example, folks, we have a store called Canadian Tire, which is sort of like, I guess, a less cool Home Depot, but it's like general hardware, general utility stuff.
And they have some other. What if it's not like the expansiveness of Walmart or Target, but it's like, what if you're right, it's like Home Depot meets Marshalls?
Kind of, yeah. Like there's some general stuff in there, but it's mostly like utility stuff. So
it's like, but they have like, it's like car/sporting equipment, camping, and then they also have
some home decor.
home decor, but then they also have their own brand of chips for some random reason.
Yeah, it's
Like,
really kind of
it,
funny.
it is weird. Like traditionally, it was okay. I don't know. Like it's like I don't know if Princess Auto's American, but like Auto Source.
Hmm.
It's like, what if you mixed Auto Source with Home Depot? That's what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, it's weird. It's funny, but yeah, it's like we used to have a commercial where it would be Santa Claus and Ebenezer Scrooge, and they would team up, and they would just go back and forth. Another one is we used to have a Zellers, which is a store that kind of exists but doesn't anymore. But they would have commercials that were voiced by Burt Ward and Adam West, Batman and Robin, and they would go like, "We're going to Toyland. Come with me, Robin." Yeah. And they would be well acted, in some cases kind of well animated. And they would be, "We're going to save Zeller's Toyland," and all this crazy shit.
And by well animated, we mean like top
by Canadian
tier.
standards,
No, not even that. No, like they would get like TMS to do it. Like they were getting top tier Japanese studios and stuff to animate it, right?
mm-hmm.
I would say the two things I remember most about Canadian Tire were the toys that they had. They had like their own actual toys.
Wishbook, yeah.
Like
the truck and everything.
There was the train set that they always put out every year, and it was basically like a loop-de-loop train set, train tracks with a train on it that was battery operated, but you could also you could like put a little thing in the smokestack and you'd light it, like, which is kind of funny that you do that, but basically it was like lighting incense. And as you'd press a button as the train was going around the set, and it would like blow a little air through the incense to make a puff of smoke come out the top. Everybody had that, but everybody, if you were a kid born in like the 70s through the 90s, everybody at some point, from a grandparent or an aunt and uncle or a cousin, you were given the as a boy or girl, didn't matter who, you were given like, not like an Optimus Prime. I don't know if it was a Peterbilt or a Kenworth, but it was like an 18-wheeler truck with Canadian Tire on the side that was to replicate the look of their delivery trucks.
Yep.
And it was remote controlled, like an RC car.
Yep. Now, in the modern era, you do see stuff like this, but with Target and Amazon, there are tie-ins. You can get toys in the store that look like the delivery trucks and their die-cast vehicles. There are Transformers. There was an Amazon Prime truck that came out a couple years ago, and most recently this year, there was a Target Optimus Prime that came with a repaint of Ravage to look like the Target dog. And I actually have this, and it's actually one of the toys I'm actually really glad that I got a hold of. There is a Holiday Optimus Prime, which is it starts with a V. I can't remember the name of the company, but it is an officially licensed vehicle. So you would be surprised some of the weird holiday tie-ins that exist. I know.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, one of the funnier commercials, there's the Folgers Coffee sister commercial, which there's a funny alternate version of that, which is obviously not real, but it's hilarious.
Okay. Canadian Tire.
Mm-hmm.
Transport truck big rig, they have a new version made to look at the current ones, and it's not RC anymore, but it is battery operated, 3 AA's, and it can drive around, motorized rig. And again, it says here now available till Christmas, so they brought it out $29.99. It's still pretty cheap. It's like it's just made to look like the modern version. And then another thing that they have out now, $40 for a die cast 100th anniversary special edition toy truck made to look like their original trucks from the 20s.
Yeah, like I like it when companies do stuff like this, especially around Christmas time. And I know one of the big things is a lot of people do the Coca-Cola train. I don't know whether the States does this. I can't imagine that they don't. But occasionally through Kitchener, Waterloo, and Guelph, more or less Cambridge, though, which is where me and Alex are local to, the Coke train will drive through, and it's all lit up, and Santa Claus will be standing on it, waving to the kids.
I don't know. It's not sponsored by Coke anymore. There is a train here that does that for Christmas. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it used to be Coke, and now I don't think it's sponsored.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, because I saw the advertisements last year. I was actually going to go, but the weather turned at like the last minute. Me and Blair decided to stay home. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, Christmas time, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this during a holiday gift guide. Maybe I'll play a funny Christmas commercial if I can find one. I know last year, I think towards the end of the special, I played a Happy Holidays from Robert Stack from Unsolved Mysteries. I know I've got Richard Dean Anderson from Stargate and MacGyver wishing you a Happy Holidays and to not drink and drive. So yeah, maybe I'll look up old funny Christmas PSAs for funsies. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Network and weird news only on thisweekingeek.net. So we're going to have one final review from Alex, and then we're going to get out of here as we prepare for more holiday madness as we begin to close out the year right here on thisweekingeek.net. So for Twig, I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back, guys, right after this review.
Our friends at MVD Visual have sent over Zyzzyx Road for us to check out, and I was scratching my head and I was thinking, I know I've heard of this title before. And I'll say this, they sent a disc that has a slipcover. It is a 4K Ultra HD plus a Blu-ray included in the set. Unlike a lot of other releases from them, it's pretty bare bones when it comes to features. And I was like, that seems a little odd. But then I was like, wait a minute, where have I heard that title before? And I saw, I'm like, Katherine Heigl, Tom Sizemore. And then I was reading the premise of it, and I went, oh, wait a minute, that's right. So the basic premise here is two adulterous lovers head to the desert to bury the corpse of her jealous boyfriend, only to discover the body is missing from the trunk. And it's a mystery thriller. It's not very long. It's about 80 minutes, maybe a little bit more and change. And it's region free on the 4K version. I didn't test the Blu-ray, but obviously 4K copies are always region free, so you can play it pretty much anywhere. And I was going, again, I watched the movie and I was like, okay. And I was like, it's interesting. It's not a great movie. And I was like, but there's some notoriety here, and I couldn't remember what it was until I had to read up a little bit on it, because the acting is fine. The cinematography is fine. It's one of those like thrillers that you watch and you go, it's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But there's nothing spectacular. But I'm like, why would this be getting a release from them? And there's some notoriety here. And then looking it up, I remember hearing about this when it came out almost 20 years ago, because it only made $30 in its entire theatrical run. It had a limited release in a single cinema and made $30. So that's like 3 or 4 people saw it. It is the lowest grossing film in U.S. history in terms of box office sales ever. Ever. It was it's hard, like it's hard to even say, like, oh my god. And it had a $1.2 million budget. So I was like, oh, so this is one of those releases that's coming out, in a fully remastered, and it looks fantastic. It looks great, and the audio is great. Like, the presentation is, more than this movie probably would have ever expected to get. And it's like, oh, this is one of those releases that comes out, and the notoriety around its box office run is more important than the actual film itself. So in that, for people that are like super big, cinema buffs or fans of weird reasons to buy movies like this, or disaster pictures or box office bombs, that's who's wanting to get this. That, and then obviously if you're fans of Katherine Heigl, Tom Sizemore, that sort of stuff. So in terms of that, I'm like, oh, this makes way more sense, and it's enjoyable for that. If you're a cinema nut that wants a shelf made up of box office bombs and that sort of thing, then it's going to be for you. For everybody else, it's more of a novelty or a rental, if that exists, quote unquote. Hopefully they use like the new master for this to release it in some digital format to watch otherwise, because it isn't going to be for everybody. But for those that are in the know with cinema nerds, I think you're going to get a kick out of it, and it's a pretty solid release, if pretty bare bones.
Now that Santa's dead, we can finally celebrate Christmas again. This is going to be the best Christmas ever.
Hey guys, welcome back to thisweekingeek.net, and thank you for joining us over the course of the last little bit here on the show. again, it's just nice to hang out with Alex. We actually originally started recording this show hours ago, but we decided to just randomly hang out. So it's been kind of nice realizing I don't have much of a voice left, and that's going to suck because I'm recording a lot this week. So coming up on the site this week, I'm doing a lot of pre-recording for our hiatus, which is going to start on December 13th, and you're going to have content all the way until late January when we come back for live shows. There will be some live content sprinkled in there. Like I said, because of the Canada Post strike, we might have an odd review roundup, last minute holiday stuff, maybe a Boxing Day special, who knows. We're still in the midst of planning some holiday stuff for like coverage and stuff like that. So we've got some new stuff. And Alex doesn't know this yet, but me, Dave, and Ken might be working on a new show for 2025 that'll be very similar to Twig After Dark. Just us talking about random stuff, nothing too messed up. Just let's talk about this. Let's hang out as friends. Let's talk, have a little bit of structure, and here you go.
So the After Dark 2.0 it's just not porno reviews.
Yeah, it's just not just weird, messed up shit. Yeah, it's stuff that won't get me fired. But yeah, it's going to be kind of fun. And Dave pitched it to me this last week or so, thinking, you know what, I kind of like that idea because podcasting should always be fun. And like I said, this is how me and Alex became family and like brothers. That's how me and Ken have become close. Me and JT have become close, and me and Aaron have come close. And now that Dave is a part of the Twig family, same with Enrique, you know, it makes sense for all of us to get together, collaborate, join together, and, you know, form the head like fucking Voltron. So why not? So that's going to be some fun stuff we're going to be working on over the next few weeks. I know Alex and Aaron have, I don't know whether you've done your Russian show yet.
We have not. Schedules have not aligned. I was very, very sick, and
you were dying.
And he was finishing up the their reenactment season, and then American Thanksgiving hit. So we're probably going to get together to do something before Christmas or maybe around that time period. This week, though, for Thursday's Earth vs. Soup, there's Skullduggery from 1970.
Oh my God, I know exactly what that is. Holy shit.
And then the following week is Stranger from Venus from 1954. And then after that, until we're back from our hiatus, there'll be 2 a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That's astounding. Again, big thanks to Aaron and Darlene for knocking it out of the park each and every week. I thought I knew what workload looked like, and then I met Aaron.
Well,
so
exactly. We've basically, what I've got prepped for us is episodes 227 through 244. And if you want to get an idea of what my backlog is as far as editing and getting all that stuff prepped, I am, what am I looking at here? Because I know I get sent them in batches at a time. You know, sometimes there's a few weeks between when I get, but generally when I get them, it's like 3 or 4 at once. So if I look here, like I said, I've got up to 244 ready to go. And in my backlog, I have up to episodes 331.
Oh, wow. So we're not running out of content anytime soon.
That is for sure. I mean, it's what, when you watch a movie as a hobby, you know, a few movies a week and you record every week, but then we only release 1 episode a week. That's how, you know, if I'm sent 3 or 4 at a time, that's how we can have, you know, a month of buffer for every week's worth.
Which is kind of amazing. So, yeah. So, like I said, me and Alex are going to be working on Holiday Gift Guide. We're also preparing for the Game Awards, which will be on December 12th. So we will have cover. We're going to record probably the day after, so we have a chance to percolate on the winners and nominees again. If you want to find out what our thoughts are on the nominees, go back to last week's show.
So a general idea of what's going on schedule-wise for everybody is this week we have Earth vs. Soup on Thursday. We will have a regular show the following week. I know that you've got some shows you've recorded that will sort of schedule out over the next few weeks, but next week is the Holiday Gift Guide nearing the end of the week on the Thursday, and then probably the following Sunday or Monday is when we'll have our our Game Awards coverage out, and then we're technically on break. We might have a review show or something come out if Canada Post it goes off strike and we get our stuff. If not, you'll see stuff trickle in over the holidays.
Exactly. So there's going to be a lot of stuff from me, Ken, and Dave, and JT. I'm working on recording that stuff now, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually having a more fun doing a more casual schedule, and then we are planning on coming back on probably the 20th or the 27th of January, basically after MagFest and Christmas has kind of settled down and gone away, and then we're going to hit the ground running for the rest of the year. And yeah, we're going to have a fantastic 2025. I'm really looking forward to it. I know me and Alex have had some sickness issues over the last couple of months, but I'm feeling good, feeling great.
Comes
Knock on
with
wood.
with the territory of just being people living with disabilities and health issues, and things crop up from time to time.
Exactly. So anyway, guys, once again, thank you for your patronage over these last couple of years. Speaking of Patreon, I am updating that a little bit more now that I got a little bit more time. I just posted a episode over there, so if you want to go find out, I think Alex has a link on the website, so please check that out when you get a chance.
I'll have to make sure. I think it's up to date. We'll make sure it's all up and running, and expect it was tried to do it this year, but sickness hit. Sometime in 2025, it's time for a refresh of the website, because hard to believe that at that point it'll be 4.5 to 5 years since we had a brand new site ready.
Wow, time really flies when we work together.
Now, the current site, the idea was initially to make it functional. It is. Our website can be read on any browser, any format. It's simple. It's not as flashy. We'll see about making something a little more flashy, but the idea is we want to have a place that you can always come and listen to us at the back catalog, look at the links, because you never know. Other podcast platforms and YouTube and other places, things can change, but we always want to make sure that there's at least a central place you can come and check us out.
Exactly. So anyway, guys, from me and Alex, it is time to jet. So for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying until next time, be excellent to each other. Happy holidays. We'll catch you guys again real soon, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.